Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. We got the topic today that everybody's already talking about. We're talking about AI, technology, emerging tech, the future, and all those scary things. We're going to make it less scary today. If there's anyone less qualified on the planet to talk about this topic, it's me. That's why it's not a solo episode. So I have an amazing guest lined up here today with us, Sani Abdul-Jabbar, and he's going to break down for us how to think about AI, tech, emerging tech, and the future of our businesses so we don't get caught in the past. So Sani, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brennan. You did promise to your audience that we're going to make it less scary. I'm not sure about that. We'll try.
That's awful. Okay, we're going to make it.
I'll try to support you in that promise.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I was joking, but really not joking. There's no one less qualified to talk about this stuff than me. I have a very, very rudimentary knowledge of how to use ChatGPT. Kind of it. So I want to hear, we're talking about AI, emerging tech, the future. This can be a scary topic for a lot of people who are maybe not even thinking about using it, but let's kind of paint the picture of if we ignore it. So let's say wherever we are today, if we don't develop our skills any further, where do you see us as business owners being in even 3 years?
Okay. So I'll try to answer your question from the numbers perspective and also with some analogies. So numbers. Every year we get some surveys done in the industry to get a sense of the changing landscape, the tech landscape, and see where the trends are going and all that, because that helps us as a company to get our ducks in a row before the technology demand for new technologies hits the market. So we spend a lot of money and a lot of time and effort on that every year. The most recent survey, we found out that the respondents, which are business leaders, small to mid-sized small to mid-sized businesses, corporations, government agencies, federal and state. So it's quite a diverse mix of respondents. We found out that over 78% business leaders understand that emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning, they are a competitive advantage. They understand, they make statements like, I know that my industry is going to get significantly disrupted by these technologies within the next 3 years. They understand that within the next 10 years, if they don't adopt these technologies as competitive advantage, they're not going to be able to survive. Forget about thriving. They're not going to be able to survive. This is between 78 to 80% respondents. When we ask a follow-up question, how are you significantly investing in these to bring these technologies into your business? And do you have dedicated people? Do you have dedicated resources? Do you have a budget line item? Do you dedicate some time in your board meetings to these things? So less than 4% respondents said yes to any statistically significant level, right? Less than 4%. So the discrepancy between these numbers from less than 4% to almost 80% understand the need, less than 4% are actually doing it. Why? And what we have concluded is that it's the fear of the unknown, fear of the new. I've been doing things in this way for the last, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You want to disrupt my business processes. I don't know where to start. I don't know where the experts are. Experts are beyond my reach in terms of the cost and all that. So that's the fear primarily that's driving, that's causing this stagnation in the industry, and the leaders aren't responding. So that's the quantitative side, answering your question from the quantitative angle. Now, from the qualitative angle, or from the experience perspective, front-end experience, you and me, every user that experiences it. If you think back, the internet, or you look too young to remember the very early days of the internet.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Yeah. So no, I say it as a compliment. Take it as a compliment. So very early days of the internet wasn't meant for communication. It was meant for exchange of papers, research papers. University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, scientists from Urbana to Chicago, University of Chicago, they were exchanging scientific papers with each other. So basically, they would put it in a shared drive on a server. These days we put it in a Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever. So they would put it on the server, create a link. That was the internet. Then from there, we went through the era of message boards, the era of very early days of chat. We went through e-commerce. The pinnacle of that internet is social media, where anyone can communicate with anybody on the planet. That's the biggest success of that age of internet, where people now can communicate seamlessly. Even language doesn't matter. Now you have apps available that can real-time translate if you're speaking different languages, and you can communicate with people across the planet. You have best tools available online for that purpose. Now, when you move into the next phase, the AI phase, now it's not about people communicating with people. It's AI communicating with AI. Most of your audience, they probably have at least heard of things like ChatGPT. ChatGPT it's just a sliver of the promise of AI. It's very early stage. So in terms of saying that, AI is taking over the world right now, no, that's not happening. That's not happening for a while. So first of all those fears that AI is going to take my job, AI is going to control the economy, AI is going to control the governments. No, not yet. Not yet. The keyword is not yet.
I like how you say "yet." That you just made this episode more scary.
It's not scary. It's caution. So
Okay.
more than fear, caution. So what can we do today? Is AI coming to steal your job? Not anytime soon. Am I coming to steal your job because I am comfortable with AI and you are not? Probably yes. So that's the more likely scenario where people who are comfortable with AI, who are learning these tools, they are threats. They are a threat to the jobs of other people who don't adopt these technologies, don't learn these tools. I know people who actually, I saw a social media post from a colleague this morning. He said that he actually has on his calendar 30 minutes dedicated every single day to play with different AI tools. He just creates test projects or test scenarios in which he would use those AIs. Like he would start writing a book or start creating a picture book or something to play with those kind of tools or others. So there are people who are actively trying to learn these tools. If you ask me which tools they should learn, I don't have the answer for that, because my answer today will be obsolete tomorrow. The tools are so rapidly coming on the market. I do like a website. It's called There's an AI for That. Are you familiar?
I have heard of it. I haven't played around with it, but it's
I have no vested interest in this website. I like it because this is basically a directory. You can Google search too, how to use AI to do X, and you can find new tools. But what I have found most effective is when you join communities of people where they talk about this kind of stuff and they bring up new tools, new techniques. There's a new language to communicate with AI that's evolving. We call it prompt writing or prompt engineering. Prompting is basically telling, say, ChatGPT, act as a email copywriter and write an email to do blank, right? So that's prompt engineering. This is like an extremely simple example, but then once you get into it, there's very complex prompt writing, and prompts can be 10 pages, 20 pages long. Sometimes there's a concept of super prompting, for which you have to bring in actual experts who do this kind of stuff. So that's the practical side, the front end side of AI experience, answering your question, how it's impacting things, where we need to learn how to interact with these tools. We need to learn how to speak the language. We need to learn, what's out there. If you look at job postings recently, you'll notice that many job postings, they have one of the requirements is comfortable with AI tools or knowledge of AI tools. So that statement is becoming almost a norm for jobs of all types, from executives to admin level, right? So that's it. So it's saying recently one of my interviews went viral back in February. 8 million plays so far, and yeah, I was talking about an AI powered crime that took place in Singapore, in Hong Kong. I'm sorry, in Hong Kong, not too long ago. And the interesting part wasn't the millions of plays. The interesting part was the hundreds of thousands of negative comments on it. Over 250,000 negative comments. And the comments were like, one of them, one or two of them that I found really interesting. One was, I don't believe in AI. I don't know what that means. AI is not God. It's not a deity. It's not a prophet. It's like, what do you mean by belief? It's not a matter of belief. You believe it or not, it's coming, right? So, so that statement, I don't believe in AI, I think that's the mindset among the deniers of these new technologies, and it's not a healthy mindset. It's a recipe for disaster, that I can tell you. So no, we are not trying to scare people from these technologies. We are giving a caution that you got to do certain things today, i.e., learning and adopting these technologies instead of just denying and saying I don't believe in it, or you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in the Easter Bunny, but like
Yeah.
AI is, we're using it,
but it's real, right?
This podcast. Yeah. Oh man, that's a funny statement though.
Yeah.
But how about this? Because your company's been around since the mid 2000s, since I think 2007, you said, and you specialize in emerging technology. AI is just the latest example. So if we want to get people over that hump to say like, okay, believe in AI because it's first of all here. It's not a belief or not a belief thing. But here's some examples of where you've already adopted emerging technology. You just don't even know it because you're so consumed with what's emerging now. Give me an example of the last 15 years. What are some emerging technologies that are now mainstream and basically required for day-to-day functioning?
Oh, so many things. Social media was emerging at one point. Video calling was emerging at one point. There was a time when asking some. So I've been in this startup and fundraising and in that world for a very long time. And there was a time when you could not ask a potential investor to meet you online via Zoom or something. Back then, I'm talking about the days of Microsoft. What was that product? I'm forgetting the name. It was very common. Zoom-like product, but it was Microsoft.
Skype?
Skype, thank you. Skype. Right? So you couldn't ask a potential investor to meet you on Skype. They would be offended. These days, that's the norm. When you ask someone to meet in person, they'll be like, why? Give me a good reason.
Yeah.
Right? So at one point, these things were emerging. These days, it's normal. I have business partners across the planet. We have investors across the planet. We've been closing deals in the tune of very, very, very large numbers. I don't even want to mention those numbers. And all online. You send documents for signing via DocuSign. You meet on Zoom. You plan via something like Asana or Jira or something like that, and you get the work done. That has become normal. In more recent days, this conversation, this tool that you're using for recording, AI is baked into it.
Yep.
Right? When you create clips and whatnot, that's all AI. The microphones that you and I both are using, there's AI baked in it. So the voice that you're hearing from me, this is already going through some AI tools and being cleaned and improved and all that kind of good stuff, right? Video, same thing. You watch Netflix, there's AI behind that. Netflix is using blockchain, for example, on the back end. So a lot of these technologies are already part of our day-to-day lives. We just don't, any phone, iPhone, Android, pick any phone. When you take a picture with iPhone or Android, it's AI that's improving that image. It's not just a physical lens. There's a lot of, so these technologies are already part of our lives. The question is, are we using it proactively or actively? If I'm a business leader, I don't have the luxury to use these technologies proactively. If I'm a consumer, sure, I'm going to buy a new iPhone or a new Android. It's going to have AI baked into it. I'll use it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan it. But as a business leader, that's your audience, business leaders, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the luxury to say, I'm just going to wait for the next, next device or next update to my software or next whatever, because in that case, you're a follower. You're not leading your industry. You're not leading your space, which means you have zero competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is when you have something that others don't, when you are ahead of the curve. And to do that, you have to actively learn these tools, actively adopt these tools, and invest in time and resources into it.
Yeah, so that's kind of the question is, the audience is business leaders, like you mentioned, and what I see is kind of two paths, right? You have someone who spends maybe way too much time playing with AI tools, and they really don't run their business; they're just playing with AI tools. And then there's the people who completely ignore it because they're just business as usual. They're going to go along their path. I don't think either one's right, and either one is both are some degree of wrong. But there's that other path where you have to kind of balance this line of you as the business leader, the owner. If you're going to be a business owner, you should not be the expert in the tool, but it should be incorporated in how your business operates. So how do we walk that line of saying, okay, here's how our team evaluates and implements and incorporates AI tools or blockchain, whatever it may be, these emerging technologies, versus me just telling my team, here's the 15 tools I want to start using, because that could also be disastrous. So how do you navigate that path?
Okay. So that's a very interesting question. And it doesn't just apply to AI, it applies to everything. If business leader starts telling their team how to do things, unless they are an expert in that field, which most business leaders aren't. They aren't supposed to be expert in anything other than leading and managing. But if they are, so let's suppose we're talking about the majority that's not an expert in every new technology because they're busy running their businesses. You don't expect them to become a master of every new tool. So for them and for the boards, my advice is this. One, create a budget line item for these emerging technologies. Understand that these are not going away. That's one. Two, have a governance model, a governance framework in place, governance practices, policies in place to manage these technologies. You can't just haphazardly throw these technologies on every problem and say they're going to fix everything. Third, think about cybersecurity. Security has become a big threat, and now we have newer challenges around security. I touched upon the AI-powered cybercrime that took place. Millions of dollars were stolen. And in short, what it was a Zoom call on which a company employee met with his CEO and several other colleagues. He knew all of them by face. They're all on Zoom call. They had a conversation. The CEO said, transfer X amount of dollars, X million of dollars out of the company to this outside account. I'm in London meeting with somebody. I need this money to close a deal. Move the money. He's like, okay, my CEO is telling me there's all these people on the call. They're all witnesses. He moves the money. Only to find out later that he was the only real person on the call. Everybody else was a digital double. They were fakes created by AI. They had a conversation. He received instructions. The money was stolen. So that happened. And so new threats are evolving. We all have received that letter from Nigerian prince who says, I have these many billions in my account, right? And back in the day when you received those letters, you would pay attention to the language, you pay attention to the format. You can kind of get sometimes you can get some red flags there. You can see some mistakes, some grammatical errors, some cultural nuances. These days, those kind of letters are perfect. I've seen some of those examples. They're perfect. They write better than you and I can because they're using all these advanced tools. So be aware of the threat, cybersecurity threats that need to be part of the conversations. Now, we're talking business leaders and the board levels, right? So the board says this needs to be on the budget, in a line item on the budget. This needs to be part of the policy. This needs to be, we need to have governance in place, and we need to be aware of the cybersecurity concerns. Now, with these provisions, now go ahead and see where we can adapt these tools in our business. I often receive requests something along the lines that I would like to transform my entire business process using AI. I would like to transform my entire business process using technology X, whatever the emerging new shiny object is at that time. And my response always is, there is no one pill for all problems. You got to look at where those technologies make sense. And sometimes they won't. In some businesses, those technologies don't make sense. For example, if we're talking about AI's lifeblood is data. If you don't have data, you don't have AI. Just saying that I have access to ChatGPT, well, OpenAI took care of the data aspect of ChatGPT. They, all the text is uploaded, so you can create some text out of that. But ChatGPT in itself is not a competitive advantage. If you and I both know how to use this ChatGPT, how to write commands, and how to pay $20 a month subscription, then you and I both have access to this tool. Therefore, it's neither yours nor my competitive advantage. It becomes a competitive advantage when I train that AI on proprietary data. If I have, for example, I did that actually. I wrote a book called Makers, a Slender Knowledge. So it's about the book revolves around the idea of mindful evolution of AI and how to bake, why is it important to bake human values into AI as it's evolving so that we can not only survive but thrive alongside future AI. So that's the whole idea of the book. I receive requests for interviews and sometimes written questions, sometimes requests for speeches and whatnot about the book and about this topic. And sometimes they get overwhelming. I don't have time to respond to every request personally. So what I did, I created a custom GPT based on just this book, nothing else. So now when I receive a request, what do you think about topic X based on your book? I will go to this custom GPT and I'll say, okay, now using the knowledge from the book, try to answer this question. Of course, the prompt is more complex, but this is the gist of it. And the response that I get, that's the response that I would give, because the book is written by me. It's my knowledge, my thoughts, right? I have also uploaded my previous writings and speeches and Forbes articles that I have written. So 100% of the content that's used to train this custom GPT is my personal content. The result of that is the output that I'm getting. Only I can get that output. You can't, because you don't have access to all those things that I have, right? So that the point that I'm trying to make is, just having access to a tool doesn't necessarily give you competitive advantage. Yes, it gives you competitive advantage over somebody who is not using those tools at all. But if a tool is publicly available, anyone can use it. But to make it a real competitive advantage, you have to train it on your own proprietary data. So the answer to a question, where can I use AI in my business, or a version of that question, would be wherever you have the most reliable, most clean data available in your business. So think about any business. Where is that? In which department or which segment of the business would you find most clean, most reliable data? Think finance, think accounting, think sales, think marketing. And then as you go down the list of these departments, data become less and less clean and more and more convoluted and all that. So that's where you start. Either you have your own data or you can acquire data from somewhere. And that's how you adopt these technologies.
I love it. I think that's a great way to think about it too, because it's simplifying a task that is important for you, but it's time consuming and really doesn't have a return. In that particular scenario you gave, which is one of those things where if you can just buy back your hours little by little and use a tool to help you get there, you hit the nail on the head there. That is the most important thing that I always want to hear people say when they talk about, doesn't matter if it's AI, any emerging tool. It is a tool. It is not the shiny object that's going to cure your business. It's not the reason you're going to grow your business. It's how you incorporate it and leverage that tool for your success to further your goals. So I love this conversation. I feel less scared. I think you delivered on the promise. So I thank you for that. The real question though is, am I talking to you? Are you a human being? Like, how would I go about verifying that? I don't know for this conversation.
I take the fifth.
That's a terrifying answer. Sani, I love it. Thank you for being here. But I do have one last question. I love to end these episodes with a question from you for the listener. So we believe that powerful questions get powerful answers. So in the context of this conversation, emerging tech, utilizing AI to grow our businesses, what is the question that the listener should be asking themselves about this topic until they get a powerful answer to grow their business?
A question that I often ask when I meet people is that at this stage, at least in the developed world, we don't have to sell the idea of AI. People know what AI is, generally speaking, thanks to ChatGPT and those kind of tools. So they have some idea. They have some idea what it can do. But only 4% business leaders, as I mentioned earlier, they are actually investing time and resources into it. Why? What's stopping you? What would it take for you to significantly invest time and resources into these new emerging technologies and take them seriously? Yeah, if your audience can only answer to that question, not saying I don't believe in it. I'm not a clergyman. I can't debate belief. But if we can get answer to that question, what's stopping you? What would it take for you to really consider these technologies to take your organizations to the next level? What would that be? That would be my
That's a good
question.
question. Yeah, I like that. 4%. That's a surprising number. So there's still a lot of opportunity. That's what I just heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sani, this was fantastic. Thank you for being here. Where can the listeners connect and find out more about you?
The best way to reach me is on LinkedIn, just my name, Sani. And I share content on LinkedIn all the time. Connect with me and I'll be happy to share what I know.
Fantastic. We'll put a link to that down in the show notes, along with his company website down there. So go click around below this episode. You'll find all of that. For you listening, watching, wherever you are, make sure you subscribe. I hope you liked this episode. If you have fears around AI, hopefully we answered some of them, but start thinking about it differently. Ask yourself that question and see if you could be part of that 4% that actually has a competitive advantage in the marketplace rather than the 96 who are doing nothing with this emerging technology. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonies at Lunch. Thanks for being here.